everybody. Welcome to our last session for this series. I think that's the right way to say it. Big Blue Book Club. We've had so much fun reading Praisesong of the Kitchen Ghost. I think that everybody who has read this book has probably had the same thing to say about it. That her writing is just so engaging, and the stories just rope you in and get you interested in everything that they have to say, or that she has to say. So I am not going to talk anymore. I'm going to turn it over to Chef T. Chef T, I'm going to let you take it away.
Share my screen here so we can go through the slides. And hopefully we'll enjoy this fourth Praisesong for the Kitchen Ghost as much as we have enjoyed all of the others. I certainly have enjoyed spending the time with you and getting all of your feedback. So I went ahead and put our Menti slide up here. If you want to join us via Menti and see your results pop up on the screen in real time, just scan this QR code, or you can go to www.menti.com as it says there. And this is our code today. Don't worry as much about the code as just getting to the site. The code is on every single slide. So you don't have to memorize that number or anything, but I am going to give everybody a chance to get on. Looks like we've got quite a few people jumping on Menti as we speak. Again, if you missed the QR code, that's menti.com, and the code will be on every slide. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started while you're continuing to log into Menti so that we can do the interactive part. That's one of my favorite parts. With our, November 17th, this is our last one of Praisesong for the Kitchen Ghosts. And if you haven't joined us before, well, welcome. And we just want you to come ready to share, ready to listen to each other, value everyone's opinions, learn from each other. We keep this as a safe space. So we'd like for everything that is said to remain confidential and not shared outside this space. If you have counter opinions, it's perfectly fine to express them, but we don't criticize other people's opinions. We just say that we see it differently or we've had a different experience. And Mindy and I are buddies with each other. We watch the chat and all of the responses coming in, and we try to react and respond to as many as we can with the time that we have together. So session 4, this is our celebration session. So birthdays must be celebrated. Merry Christmas, Christine, and giving thanks past, present, and future. And isn't our timing great for this as we're headed into the holiday season? Lastly, don't forget to join us on Facebook. We have the Big Blue Book Club Facebook group. You can scan that here. If you haven't engaged with that, you might want to try it because you learn even more about what we're reading and upcoming stuff. Lots of stuff is posted in that Facebook group. I want to get us started today as we're settling in with a quote by Gail Jones. This is in the front of Praisesong for the Kitchen Ghost. There are a couple of quotes up front and that Crystal has included that are so resonant with her writing. My great-grandmama told my grandmama that part she lived through that my grandmama didn't live through. And my grandmama told my mama what they both lived through. And my mama told me what they all lived through. And we were supposed to pass it down like that from generation to generations so we'd never forget. Now, Gail Jones, you may not know this, she is also a Lexington writer. It's amazing the talent we have in this state. She was very prolific she wrote novels in the 70s and 80s, and she was credited with transforming Black literature. And then she stepped out of the public view for over 20 years, only publishing again in 2021. But she is one of those iconic voices in literature. And I think it's so appropriate that this is the quote that Crystal has chosen to start off or to kind of kick off the front of her novel or her memoir. So this is our first mentee request. What parts of this book made you laugh? There were quite a few in this week's reading that made me laugh. But if it's from this reading or if it's from anywhere else in the book, this is an open-ended question, so you can just type your answers in. If you have not joined us on Menti or choose not to, you can just type into the chat. We've got our folks joining us, got our groups and our watch parties. Thank you, different counties. All right. The Menti code is right up here up top. I'm going to type it into the chat also. Oh, thank you, Mindy.
Now it's I was typing as you said you were doing it. As you said, we're a good team. What parts of this book made you laugh? Memories and stories, the kid party hot dogs and the Kool-Aid stain on the carpet, right? What related to your upbringing, the warm description connected to the memories. Some of the descriptions, such as she spoke of her grandmother's body shaking or her own while she's stirring. Yeah. The reminders of her birthdays. I saw that in the chat too, so thank you. The parties in the Hog's Head. Let me tell you, the restaurant I worked at Holly Hill Inn, there were times when we had whole hogs out in the walk-in, and you know, if you weren't aware and you just open up the walk-in and there's a big old hog sitting on one of the shelves, it's a little bit, or sometimes we get really big fish and the fish head would be kind of staring at you when you walked in, like right at eye level. That's that's a little startling, right? Kids would probably be both fascinated and repulsed. You never know. The grandmother, reminding them of the birthday. Again, we've got her son's party. I like the hopping over the plates of melted ice cream like lily pads. That was great. The stirring. Stories of her life. Yes. Lots for the stirring. And maybe I should have done a word cloud on this. The limp hot dogs, yes. The Hog's Head and the popcorn, everywhere. She thought they were asleep, and then to wake up with a floor full and sleeping bags full of popcorn. That's excellent. Thank you. All through the book, there's tons of warmth and laughter and lots of memories with the whole family. Yeah, her mother saying, "Look," as she's starting about this time of year, probably she'd be like, "You know, my birthday." So on February 14th, wearing the kids out at the pool. Helping your daughter with the turkey. I do have a quote from the turkey preparation today. Yeah. My granddaughter thought she should call her uncle this year to remind him of his 29th birthday. That's awesome. The COVID Zoom about the expired cornbread. Yeah. Yes, like asking the ancestors to say, please forgive her, right? So I'm going to ask you the opposite question now. What parts of this book made you cry or made you tear up? Your nose, get a little stinging in your eyes, cutting onions, I guess we should say. There's a lot of parts in this book where I just had to kind of just shut the cover for a minute. And because I had to gather myself. Some of it makes me ache so much for some of the stuff that has happened that is so similar to what's going on in my life. And then a lot that I have no way of knowing what it's like. Yeah. The pandemic holidays and all of that, where she waves until she can't stand not to cry anymore when her children pick up their meal and leave. Yeah. We were very touched by because we were there, right? We can really relate to that. Her mother's mental health battle. There was something in every chapter that hurt my heart. Yeah. The memories, looking at her grandmother's dress, how her heart ached
The non-Thanksgiving. Yeah. Yeah, that's a sad piece. Her mother's health battle. Yeah. All the personal memories that are coming in. Not having this history of cooking with your family, because we don't all have that same background of wonderful memories. Or if we have memories, they can sometimes be clouded by not so positive parts of it. Remembering the times growing up and missing her grandmother, right? That's an ache. When she told about Black people not getting to celebrate their birthdays, or maybe not even knowing what their birthday was. Talking about her mother and grandmother made you remember yours. Yeah. Missing family reunions. Absolutely. Yes, all of this. There's so many pieces of this that make me think about memories of my own. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing those memories. Sometimes the difficult ones. Sometimes it feels good to share that, though, and to see that other people have those same food and to memory that you do. So in Birthdays Must Be Celebrated, this is Dorsey. This is Crystal's mom. And I hope I didn't cut out there. I got a little dialogue box saying my internet's unstable, so I apologize. But on page 104, she says she goes into the history about the fact that enslaved people often weren't allowed to know their own birthday. They might know the season of the year, and they certainly weren't allowed to celebrate it. And that even kind of carried on after manumission, after slavery was ended, that people just weren't in the habit, didn't have it in their head to even celebrate birthdays. And especially when you have a farming family and you're working so hard on your farm. By the time I came along, my grandparents still weren't accustomed to marking birthdays. They raised their children as they worked alongside them in the fields. The workday and the tasks ahead for survival were more important than any solitary day, any solitary person. They worked as a cooperative unit, and the only days celebrated were holy ones. Still, through the years, there was an occasional card, a favored dish cooked, and a quiet spoken happy birthday. Now, and I know later on, Crystal wants to celebrate birthdays and involves her whole family in that. We'll get to that in just a moment. But I think some of us have all different ways we like to celebrate our birthdays. Some of us like for a lot to be made out of our birthdays, and some of us might prefer this more quiet spoken, having dinner with the family, not doing a whole lot kind. But of course, Crystal's mother loves celebrating her birthday, and as you've already mentioned, she would mention it months ahead, and Crystal would ask her for a list of what she might want, and she had a whole list of things, kind of random things that might be nice to have for her birthday. And also these celebrations and being able to kind of be the queen for the day was a favorite thing of Crystal's mom. Crystal says, I baked pies and cakes for her, cooked her special dinners, and some years simply sat in her company while she basked in her glory. I baked an apple spice cake for her once that was made with artificial sweeteners. She retaliated by eating a half-gallon of butter pecan ice cream when she got home. It was her birthday, she told me. I can eat what I want. And some of us do celebrate our birthdays that way, right? I can remember, especially as children, we'd be like, it's my birthday. I can do what I want and I won't get in trouble for it. But I think it's it's sweet that her mom still takes that. It's my birthday. I'm queen of the day. I can do what I want on today. And I love the pictures of her celebrating her birthday at Stella's Deli where she worked. And then Crystal saying that she had a cake and candles and everybody celebrated her there. And then she came home and the family celebrated her again with another cake and fresh candles and everything. I love that she made this her day. And then even within this tradition, maybe not celebrating birthdays as much, she talked about her cousin Trish celebrating 2 big birthdays, her sweet 16 and her 40th. And it was very nostalgic for me to read the part about Trish's sweet 16. There were tables of food like a southern summer soiree, mounds of sandwiches on a great long table, and a punch bowl filled with something cold, sweet, and tart, made, I believe, from sherbet and lemon lime pop. That day began my decades-long love affair with pimento cheese. But there was also Benedictine and chicken salad sandwiches with the crust trimmed off and small bowls of buttermints and peanuts. There was music. It was the 70s and everything was awash in pastels. What I remember most is Trisha's smile while she stood in the middle of that milestone that August, her future glittering in front of her, as all of us bore witness, celebrated, and ate the fancy food. Now, I don't know about y'all, but every kind of reception when I was growing up until, even recently, any kind of wedding reception in our church, any kind of shower, baby, wedding, or what have you, any kind of anniversary, if they had nothing else. Now, a lot of times they would have little finger foods and tea party sandwiches. But if nothing else, we would have cake, we would have the sherbet punch, we would have mixed nuts, and we would have buttermints. And we had little special bowls for all of those things that would come out every single time. When I read this, I can see, hear, smell my church basement, Muldrow Hill Baptist Church in just outside Jessietown, Kentucky. So heading toward Campbellsville. It just brings it all back. I don't know if you all had some of the same celebrations, but that's certainly really always buttermints and nuts, right? Okay, Johnson County is having the pimento cheese and the dressed eggs today. So how is your pimento cheese, Johnson County? I also have a love affair with pimento cheese, but I also do with Benedictine. Now, I don't like the stuff that's prepared in the grocery. I like making it myself when cucumbers come in. And I don't dye mine because sometimes that green can look a little unnatural if you buy it in the store. Loved it. Awesome. But yeah, I do have a love affair with pimento cheese, and sometimes I'm a purist. Sometimes I just want what I had when I grew up, and sometimes I like to experiment with it. So, Crystal asked her whole family, like, what do you eat? And I've seen people ask questions like this when they kind of icebreakers or get to know you kind of thing. So let's get to know each other. What would be, if you had anything you could want, what would be your birthday meal and your dessert? Like what you would want. Oh, banana split cake. That sounds fun. Strawberry cake. Excellent. You can put your answers into Menti. All the info's at the top. Join at menti.com and there's the code, or you can just drop them in the chat. Steak, salad, baked potato, white cake with white icing. Right? I'm right there with you. Whoever said anything you don't have to cook. Oh, carrot cake. Lasagna and salted caramel cake. Pizza and chocolate cake. Yes. Your mom's Salisbury steak. And I never had homemade Salisbury steak. German chocolate cake. That was my uncle's favorite. He loved a German chocolate cake. Homemade fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and milk gravy with ice cream cake. Chocolate eclair, shrimp and grits. We just had shrimp and grits for First Friday. It was so good. Mexican food and chocolate cake. Your mom would bake your favorite angel food with the sweet pink icing. I remember that. That was very, like when I was a child, that was a huge thing. My mom made one of those for my birthday one year, and she tinted the icing green, like a minty seafoam green. Homemade peach ice cream. We did a lot of homemade ice cream as well. And a piñata in the yard. Was raised on a farm. My birthday was during harvest, so you didn't celebrate either. Oh, we have my sympathy. 4 of your family members were born around your birthday. Okay, so you'd have a big celebration together? We kind of do that. We have a lot of August birthdays in my family, so we kind of have one big August celebration. No baked cookies. Yeah, those are a perennial favorite, right? Fried chicken, mashed potato, green beans, biscuits, and gravy, chocolate cake with chocolate icing, turkey roll-ups, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, and cake or brownies. Yes. All right. Thank you for sharing those. Sometimes they ask chefs what their sort of last meal would be, and they even did a book about it one time. It was pretty interesting. So we'll move on to the next chapter. Merry Christmas, Christine. And here she is. Here's Crystal's grandmother, Christine. And again, we go back to all of these wonderful nostalgic memories if you have them. If not, though, maybe you have some other kind of nostalgic memory if it's not tied to family or tied to these food memories. On page 206, Crystal says, when I was a girl, Christmas on the creek meant candy canes, apples, oranges, pecans, Brazil nuts, popcorn balls, and chocolate cherry cordials. It meant at least 30 cousins, aunts, and uncles were coming home, and law me the food. So I can relate to this, I'll be honest. We didn't have this many folks. My mom just had 2 siblings, and there were only 9 of us cousins. So when we were little, it was easy for us all to stay at my grandparents'. But I remember the oranges, and we had one of those. It looked like a tree, like it had been sawed, and it was a nut. It held whole nuts in the shell, and we had the little nutcracker and the little things that would dig out the nut meats. That was a perennial Christmas. Every Christmas, that probably until I left for college, we had that little wooden bowl that had bark on the outside that held our nuts in the shell that we would crack. And I remember my grandfather loved going to there were always special candies at the country store near where they lived, and he would go get little clear plastic bags of those special candies for Christmas. And he loved the ribbon candy. Anybody else have the different color ribbon candy? It's a hard boiled sweet. Out at Christmas. So those are some things that I remember. If you want to put some stuff into the chat of what you remember from Christmases when you were little, getting that orange down in the toe of your stocking or something like that, please feel free to add that in. She also talks about Christmas on the Creek on page 207 about the labor that her grandmother put into making this meal. On Christmas Eve, my grandmother practically spends the night in the kitchen, basting the turkey, preparing the dough for yeast rolls, planning for all the side dishes. I help when she wants me to. I'm her prep cook, slicing and sifting. I mimic her hand, sweeping her forehead to wipe the sweat. I sigh deep in my lungs from exhaustion, just like she does. And this is when, she was a teenager, as we'll see on the next slide. Continuing on to page 208, she talks about her grandmother. She's tired. She asks, are we going to make it, Chrissy? I say, this is going to be the best Christmas we've ever had. She smiles. I'm 14, but I can't hang. My arms are tired from beating egg whites by hand. My legs and knees are giving in from being on my feet too long, but Granny is still going strong. On down that page, she says, and I'm going to continue before we talk about this. When I was young, I didn't think much about it, but now I think about how tired my grandmother must have been. 3 days of cooking for her own family, helping the white folks prepare for theirs, a grandchild underfoot, and at times a sadness on her face for those she'd loved. Mother missed her mother her entire life. And when she spoke of her cooking, her advice, her life, it always felt as if she was talking about a mythical woman with those 3 buckets. Have you often thought about people who have prepared a meal for you and how much labor goes into it? My grandmother was tiny and she was kind of quiet, and she would make these humongous meals. You would think she was cooking for an army, and it was just about 20 of us, all by herself. I mean, my mom and aunts would go and help, and when we got older, we would help, but she had done the majority of it even by the time we got there. And this always makes me think of her and how much labor it must have taken, because everything was from scratch, just like Crystal's grandmother did. There weren't any shortcuts. It was always homemade rolls and homemade stock and from scratch desserts. So now by the time I came along, it wasn't like they were killing their own hogs or anything like that, but it was still a lot of labor. And then, when you're 14 and you're not used to that, it can be overwhelming. We'll go into the chat for a minute. For us, it was about all of your Christmas memories. So for us, it was a bowl of ribbon hard candy and a bowl of real coconut, pineapple, and all the fruits. Another special bowl held the mixed nuts and the shells. That's great. Bourbon balls. Yes, yes. I love opening up a tin or a container of bourbon balls and just getting a whiff of it. Oranges and yeah, nuts in the shell that you cracked with a nutcracker. Going out and getting your tree. I hope you didn't do. My grandfather would just go out on his wood somewhere and grab a cedar. Those are kind of difficult to decorate without getting stuck all over. But they smell so good, right? I'm going to try and see if I can share again. Here we go. All right. Cream drops and fruit. Yeah, cream drops are one of those special candies that my grandfather would pick up as well. Oh, your late husband loved the ribbon candy. Yes, yes. You can still find it some places. Stringing popcorn for the tree. Listening, but at work. Gotcha. Oh, savory memories. Yes, the Kentucky Reads book. I have Minnie and I discussed that, but about the time that we thought about doing the savory memories, the Kentucky Humanities Council was giving out free books, but because of all of the government cuts, they stopped offering it. So maybe we can revisit that one at some point. Never thought about how much labor it was until you have to do. Yeah, I mean, I only cook for like 5 or 6 people, and it still takes me 2 days to get ready for it. Oh, 100 cocktail empanadas tilted 81 and making 100 cocktail empanadas in September. Goodness. At school, you were getting a brown bag with the nuts and the fruit and candy. One meal you had over 10,000 steps. You hadn't stepped out of home. Let me tell you, when we used to do First Fridays over here at the Good Barn, I used to get 10,000 steps before 9 a.m. and doing those. So you can certainly rack up the steps when you're doing a big meal. Cedar trees were the best. Yeah, food. We have plenty to share. Didn't really get gifts, but a stocking. Yeah, and you looked for it. Oh, old-fashioned pulled cream candy. Now that makes me envious. I've never made homemade pulled cream candy. So you're telling me already your favorite Christmas traditions. If you have any more though, like the going out to get the tree or that ribbon candy or the pulled cream candy. My mom always was a fan. And she struggled with this when I was really young, divinity. So, it's another one of those things that you got to get right on the ball with the softball stage. If you go a degree or two too far, either way, it doesn't set up or it sets up too hard. All the cookies. Yeah. peanut butter roll, or as we call it potato candy, because we do put a boiled potato in the dough. Pulled candy, gingerbread. Yes. Oh, the smell of gingerbread baking. Absolute cutting fresh cedar. Folks are putting up our decorations in the Good Barn today, and I swear it's all artificial, but I swear I smell pine. I know it's probably psychosomatic, but I smell pine now that we have trees up here. Excellent. Lots of pulled candy. I'm jealous of all of you. And taffy. We've got lots of cookies, though. Cookies, candlelight service at Christmas Eve. It's so beautiful watching that light spread, isn't it? Oh, making divinity. Okay, we've got another divinity. Yeah. Bourbon balls. Fudge. Yeah, my dad was a huge fudge, but he liked that marshmallow fudge, which is fine. But I like the really like the almost chewy fudge that you have to have the marble cutting board for. Watching White Christmas. Yes, all of those special shows that we can get together and watch. Excellent. Cookies for Santa. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Black walnut fudge. Oh. All right. We're going to go on to giving thanks, past, present, and future. And as we're all thinking about probably now our Thanksgiving meal with each other, I ask us to turn to, we're going to talk about culinary destiny. So Crystal goes back and forth in this chapter, right? Of talking about the memories and then talking about and worrying about passing along these traditions to her children and generations to come. On page 223, she says, we come from a clan of women who knew their way around a kitchen, christened in the old ways, innovative enough to provide their own twists. We come from Indian Creek, descendants of Aggie, Patsy, Christine, Lily, and Lizzie. On Indian Creek, the women, housekeepers, factory workers, hairdressers, housewives, receptionists, teachers, writers, had names like cradle songs, Mary Lisbeth, Muff, Dorsey, Nemi, Suki, Lady, and Low. On Indian Creek, the gravel road twisted across Green River to where our people lived up on a hill in a small gray house with shingle siding. We lived in a place where tables in the kitchen and dining room were piled high on Thanksgiving. I absolutely love this almost liturgy of these people, these names that tie to this space and place on Indian Creek and where all of this began many, many generations ago. And then within a couple pages, she's bringing all of that forward to talk about her children and how they're celebrating. So on page 225, she said, and this is, of course, when they're celebrating Thanksgiving via Zoom and can't be together, but her children are trying to still cling to those traditions. Thanksgiving morning via Zoom, my daughter Elenia stands in her kitchen with a look of disgust on her face, presents her raw turkey to me on the screen. She holds it up as if it were a baby, bounces it a couple of times, Lion King style. Now what? She asks. I ask her if she has softened butter, and she dances 2 sticks in front of her. Put that turkey down and put the butter on it, I tell her. She places the bird on her bare counter and digs her fingers into the butter and begins to smooth it on with her fingertips as if she's tickling the turkey. I think salmonella. I think ancestors, please forgive her. So sometimes if we haven't spent time sticking our nose into our mother's or grandmother's kitchens, we may not have that generational knowledge. But we're trying to do what we can with the knowledge that we have. So it seems like her daughters really learned a lot about gardening, but maybe not so much about cooking on the other side to get things to the table. So we go back to the past again. I love this sort of back and forth, and she's weaving it all together. On page 227, she says, the religious tradition of fasting, feasting, and giving thanks continued into the 1700s and 1800s. And of course, enslaved Black laborers were the primary cooks for those early feasts. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln declared Thanksgiving a national holiday, and it's been celebrated on the fourth Thursday of November ever since. The celebration of it has been a quandary in our family for years, to celebrate or not, to rename or not. And then she continues to think about that difficult decision. On page 228, she says, I like to think of myself as a person who is conscious of the world, and yet I find myself clinging to the past, afraid to loosen the memory of the ghosts in my kitchen. As many times as I've tried to remove the name of the problematic holiday from my life, days grow cloudy with nostalgia, and I've given in every time. So maybe with this historical nostalgia, it's difficult to say we don't want to celebrate the oppression of enslaved people. We don't want to celebrate the removal of indigenous people from their land so that we could have it. But maybe we can celebrate these families that came together even out of that kind of past and that kind of history. And I understand Crystal's two ways of thinking about this. It's not always simple and it's not always easy, and there's not always one answer, right? Sometimes we just have to continue to work our way through it and let our mind sift through all the aspects of it. Ritual and habit. On page 233, Crystal finishes up this novel, or I keep saying novel, it's not a novel, this is based on her life, this wonderful memoir, by saying, out of all of this she's been contemplating over all these chapters, I cook out of homage, for pleasure, and not bound by duty. I am keenly aware that Black Appalachian foodways are a legacy to be treasured, to be passed on to the next, and the next, and the next. I'm thankful that my children and grandchildren will find their own ways to morph and change culinary traditions, to add to and subtract from their mothers' ways, to honor the calling of the kitchen ghosts, however they see fit. What a beautiful way to bring all of these threads together at the end of her book, to knit this tradition of the past and the passing it on into the future for all of these generations to come. And what a wonderful way that she has preserved this, not only for her family and all those different generations, but for us as well. So, since we're coming to the end of this book, and it makes me quite sad to talk about this, I've enjoyed your company and the discussions and all of the memories that you've been sharing. But I thought it would be interesting to see what stood out to you, especially as Mindy. I think this would be interesting information for you when you select future books for the Big Blue Book Club. What aspects of this book really appeal to you? So you can rank each one of these from 1 to 5. And if you want to be like giving each one a different number, of course, there's 6. Other is the 6th one. So if you want to like say, I rank this one 1 and this one 2 and this one 3, or if you just want to give a general ranking of if they're all a 5, then that's fine, or if they're all a 1, that's fine too. But 1 would be, this wasn't my favorite aspect, and 5 would be, yes, this is my absolute favorite part of reading Praisesong for the Kitchen Ghosts. All right, so we're getting some stuff in. And if you're selecting other, I was trying to include like all the different parts, but would you care to drop in the chat what the other part of it that you enjoyed very much? I like what you said, Mindy. Today would be a good day to make divinity because it's low humidity. Christmas tea. Oh, yearly time capsules. That's a wonderful tradition. Pasta from, I would love this kind of party where all I had to bring was a sauce and then you end up with all kinds of different pastas. Caroling, divinity, real chocolate fudge, fruitcake cookies, cream candy, so many more, along with the feast, right? So much cooking. Cranberry salad, orange slice candy fruit, or orange slice candy fruitcake. I've had that. I've had the orange slice fruitcake and gumdrop cake. Yeah. The recipes stood out the most. Historic stories and the memories. You have all of Crystal's books. This one is so special. Yes. But I do recommend trying her other books because like this is her writing style, even in her short stories and her novels. And her poetry really moves me as well. If you're a poetry person, I would recommend picking up Perfect Black as well as her short stories and novel. Just loved everything. Yeah, really liked all of it. Recipes again, so 5. Yeah, so it looks like we're tied on the historic stories and the memories. Yeah, all the reminders of our childhood. If you grew up in this kind of foodway, learning the history of the lives of the men and women of color. Love the entire book, especially this, yeah, all the relatable stuff, right? All these memories that you can relate to. Her writing is wonderful. Yep. Read most of her books. She also has some essays that she's written as well that have been published in magazines and periodicals. Historic memories, contemporary, yes. Kitchen ghost speaking. Yeah, those ghosts can be haunting, especially the way that Crystal sort of listened to her memories and what she knew about her ancestors and then gave them voice, whereas they didn't have it before. I think that's a really special aspect of this book. Okay. I think our votings, pictures, yeah, the pictures were wonderful. Everything together, right? The stories, the recipes, her narrative. Your mother loved to cook and you love to, yeah, it's sort of, it's cascades, doesn't it? It starts with our ancestors and it sort of flows down and finally kind of gets to us. And then we can share that with other people. Oh, yes. So, you listened to it on Audible. Yeah, you felt like Christine was telling the story. That's wonderful. Sometimes people, because I go back and forth between, I love reading hard copy books, but I also love listening to them. And people ask me why. And I was like, sometimes I want to hear, especially the author reads it. I really like to listen to it. And sometimes I really want to see the words on the page. And it just kind of depends on what I'm reading. I loved that after her grandmother died, she hung her dress in the kitchen to kind of keep her spirit there. Right? Yes, that's lovely. We are all more alike than different. Yeah, I think that's one of the main cruxes of this book is that you can see yourself in every part of it. Oh, thank you. Just an FYI, this is wonderful information. Susan Miller and her husband received the 2025 Community of Excellence Award at the Indiana Black Loam Conference this past weekend. Seriously, Mary, you have some of your mother's aprons in a suitcase. Get them out. Yes, wear them. Your mother's ghost will be right there with you. I have my grandmother's apron that's made out of a printed flour sack when they used to print patterns on them because they knew women were making like baby clothes and aprons and tea towels out of the flour sacks because they never threw anything away, right? Yeah, get those out, wear them, enjoy them, let them embrace you, and bring your mother into the kitchen with you. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to ask any final questions, any final comments about this book? I loved your responses to it. I go back and I read the chats because I love looking through what you say. Your grandmother left you. This applies to make chicken scratch aprons. So you can make them for the great-grandchildren for her. Oh, that's so sweet. That's so touching. Thank you, Mindy. Anything else like that? Anything else that this brought up for you? Yeah, this has been a wonderful one, and it's been this was, man, I want to express my gratitude to Mindy and to Extension and to all of y'all because this was my first time leading the Big Blue Book Club, and I couldn't have picked a better one to lead. It's just marvelous. But otherwise, I think, I hate to say it, but I think we're coming to the end. So, Mindy, we have a question about the next one has been chosen.
So, Pat, we have not chosen the next book, but no, we do not have a book yet in mind.
All right. Well, thank you for that question. Oh, well, thank you all. This has been excellent. I've enjoyed chatting with you about this, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, and if I don't see you before then, very happy holidays to you.